Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, October 16, 2024. Our goal here is to review the market generated information in a holistic fashion. We're intimately following the auctions narrative of both ESN and the Q. If we have time, we'll theorize and add additional commentary towards the end. There is a video uploaded today containing my live commentary and a dime replay. Check it out if you like. All right, let's get started. So, again, today is Wednesday. We're primarily looking into the retail sales for Thursday and the jobless claims as well for tomorrow. Regarding earnings, it was a little bit lighter for today, but this is still the beginning of the season. We have the banks, ASML went today, and then we have Discover After Hours. Just primarily the banks this week is what it seems like. Tomorrow we have Netflix, a few more banks, and then American Express on Friday. Today for the earnings, excuse me, today for the economic calendar, we just had the import price index, so fairly light, at least from what the market typically responds to. There really wasn't much of a reaction today from what we've seen. So, looking at the overview, again, we are bullish on the highest time frame. On the intermediate, we are indeed bullish, closing at the all-time highs from last week. And then going into this week, we had our holiday for Monday, which took us through the all-time highs. We ended up having essentially a reversal day, ate up all of that. Um, so really, the goal for the buyers was to ideally protect this low and really close above this 50% for the S&P 500. Looks like they were basically able to accomplish that. Really the same situation for the NQ, except they wanted to minimize, have damage control over the lows. Looks like they protected this one here from October 9th. So they were able to close a little above the prior day's close. So I mean, really, the NQ just wants to get back above this daily S5 SMA, which is about the 430s, 20K 430s. All right, so we'll see how people actually responded. Notice the divergence between those two. We have the NQ, which essentially had a doji for today, no real upside. We'll look at the details later. Volume was light from what we've seen for the past month and a month and a half, and even the delta, the max that it got up to was a 3600, and then we finished around 2700. Sellers did have control for a while. You can see the minimum was 3500, but we closed positive for 2700. So a very nice push for the buyers towards the end to really um, to get price higher from what it seems. Even the sellers, you can see they definitely tried here above the 20K 300s towards the 400s. Since this is where the volume point of control was, a lot of activity here, and price was able to stay up here and close. So again, not the best day for the buyers for the NQ, but you know, relatively speaking, okay job, I guess. That was damage control. Again, the S&P 500, who has been the one with the breath. Again, even if we look at the sector tracker over the past 5 days, you can see that they've been doing pretty well. Just a lot of breadth overall, not just technology, everyone else. So that's the reason that we wanted to see them get above that 50% line, which appears what they have done. Same situation, we only are at 800, about 880,000 here. So fairly light, one of the lightest volumes that we've seen recently. Um, so you really can't look at the delta too much as well. But the max was 20K and they finished about 16K. The range being about 40 points, which is fairly tight. And then the NQ was essentially 200. All right, we'll look again at this sector tracker. We can see that we finished about a 0.5%, with the only negatives being consumer staples and communications. I know communications has their own thing going on. It has something to do with Google. I'm not really too for sure. But again, everyone did pretty green. Everyone was green for the most part. The technology sector only being up about a third of a percent, while everyone else was pretty pulling their weight. Banks are still doing their things, which I think we looked at it the other day in our weekly review. Banks is actually one of the leaders for the whole year. Um, all right, the my apologies. So the So yeah, this is just for today. So again, just really solid across the board. It's not really too much to say there. Healthcare, they did take a little break over the past 5 days. Healthcare is just now unchanged, still a little negative for the most part. But from what we can tell, solid job for the S&P 500, especially with tech getting their ass kicked today. Again, they're up a third of a percent, but trust me, they were getting beat down earlier in the day, which is why I think it's pretty cool to see them that negative delta being 3,500, but they finished positive 2,700. So say what you will about that. All right, I do want to take a quick peek at the weekly candle to see what we're looking at. Again, it's all-time high, so you're only going to be able to see too much. Looking at the NQ, possibly I think that's considered an inverted hammer technically. We'll look at the NQ on the market profile. Again, we had a lot of singles above us from the prior day with that big sell-off. We were unable, excuse me, buyers were unable to push through the even make it to the 400s. I don't think they make it to the 400s, right? No, they fell a point shy. So they fell a point shy of that 400 mark, and that was really in the overnight session, and lower highs for the remainder of the session. The shape profile essentially, I mean, there's like a high normal. It doesn't really, it's a P shape profile, kind of, sort of, for the TPO, but for the volume, it just seems like a normal kind of no real shape for the most part. So yeah, not really too much to show there. We had a test down back to that key zone that we've been talking about for the longest, and it doesn't appear that sellers want to trade lower than the 20K 200s. So I mean, say what you will, but sellers are not getting this price under these 200s, which we do have some singles from the October 8th below there, which is something that's a good reminder for myself. Same situation for the ES. We had our weekly. VPOC is near the 59.10s or so. And then for today, very ugly looking profile. Goodness. But yeah, the majority of the time was spent near these lows, and they really just kind of pushed through, essentially just squeeze the remainder of the day. A nice grind trend up. So double distribution here. VPOC near the highs. Seems like we're gravitating back up to where that VPOC is. No, a little bit of a singles. I guess I'll go ahead and do that now. And it says 1016. But they too did not hit their singles, which is near the 94s. But okay. So yeah, we'll merge these two together. They did hit these singles from yesterday. They took those up. So now the VPOC is exactly where we're at now, near these 84s. Okay, perfect. So we'll look at the intraday. Before we do that, same thing as the 138-minute candle. Same thing. We're looking at the market profile. We never made it to those to that 400 range. We're kind of stuck in here, but we did bounce off of that former that high volume node, that pivot area from that 10.9 here. So that was protected. Solid job for the buyers there. And then ES is just kind of really showing out with their breadth. Base, pull. So we had a drop, base, and it appears that we're reverting back upwards. And looking at the S&P 500 for the footprints, you can see we had lower highs and lower lows, trend day downwards yesterday, and we had higher highs ish, kind of, sort of, higher lows for sure, but the higher highs didn't really happen until a little later in the session. So again, interesting day, kind of a trend day, but grindy for sure for the S&P 500. Kind of sort of the same for the NASDAQ, except they're a little more channeling, very much of a tight channel there. Sellers tried, and then it seems to be just a squeeze for the remainder of the session. Not too much to speak there. We'll look at the same NASDAQ there. Again, we had our big drop. Oof. Okay, sorry, trying to get my arrow. So we had our big drop there on Monday. Excuse me. We had our rise on Monday, Sunday to Monday. Then we had our channel. Then we had our drop on Tuesday, and then we had our consolidation to the right Tuesday night. And then we ended up breaking that range. We broke that low, prior day's low, and then immediately pushed back up into that overnight low, pulled back to the IB mid for the most part, and then just slowly drifted up. Um, they never did test their overnight high, but they did make a new high for the RTH session. So again, not really too sexy there for the NQ. Same situation for the ES, except they were a lot more, they had a lot more strength. Same rise up, same channel, same downtrend, same move to the right for the S&P 500. Where in the overnight session, we just shot up, we shot down, we shot up, and then we pulled back to about the middle of that range. We had an open test drive, push down, really grindy, really grindy. We ticked that overnight low multiple times, kind of cradled under there, fucking impulse through back into the open, burst through the overnight high, pulled back aggressively back to the open, to the IB mid. Open test drive, impulse. We look for that pullback. First real pullback was between the open and the IB mid. Reclaim of that 5 smoothing average. Can't hold it. Pull back to these VWAP bands to this open. There's a lot of DGPs right here. Push back up through this overnight high. Trying to channel above this overnight high. Can't get back to that VWAP. And that was pretty much all she wrote. Trend day. Can't stay below the 5 smoothing average. Not until we got to essentially power hour for the most part. And then we just kind of leaked a little lower. So again, nothing too crazy for this session. Seeing this in real time, this was a little bit confusing. I was expecting for a big breakdown from here, but it just didn't happen. Especially after all these boys got trapped. This pullback back to the open, I was a part of this, and this just made sense in real time. So again, we have our impulse through this second bracket, pull back in the C bracket, looking to buy somewhere in here. You can even break this down into the 1 minute, which I typically don't do here. But just to show you what it looks like. Again, you can look at the DOM and you can see this in real time. If you go back to the 1 hour and 12 minutes into the session, you'll see this impulse candle, this retest of the IB mid, and you can just see them somewhere just grinding in here. I was able to sneak a little contract in here, sold somewhere in there, got another one around here, and then sold about in this range. It's actually sold near this overnight high as well. Definitely in hindsight, I will look to stay in my trade and then just add as we're making higher highs and higher lows, especially when we could not touch the VWAP around here. We slowly grind it back up. So definitely in hindsight, it's 2020. But solid trend day. I need to learn how to get a little better at these in real time. The NQ. Again, there was no real structure to lean off of, but you saw when they tried to aim near this open. Once they started being a little bit rejected and they had 2 rejections there, you definitely had an opportunity to put your stop near the high of this candle or just the open itself. Really targeting essentially this IB mid for the most part. Because what you get in here, this candle here. So I mean, let's call it 27 if you just real late. 27, and then the open is 24 points away. So I mean, even just 50 points, that'll take you about really to that VWAP, which makes sense for the most part. But like I found it really difficult to want to short NQ during all this. If anything, I was able to try to get long in the same situations, but just their sell pressure just felt really heavy. And again, you can see that and feel that on the tape. It this looks clean in hindsight, but in real time, this was tough to trade, dude. Especially when you're looking at just the RTH sessions. I mean, we're still bear flagging. We're not even above, this little zone here. We never reached the 400s. We never got to the freaking overnight high. So it was just really hard to kind of long the Nasdaq when they have such a weak posture, and the S&P 500 is just pushing so aggressively. Again, you don't see that for the S&P 500. It's just a totally different situation. Very aggressive. Um, yeah, really the whole day. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I really don't want to belabor this. Again, it was a fairly simple day. You just had to really be patient. I will give the buyers for the ES a good, 8 or 9. Again, after we were saying yesterday, like, hey, we don't want to give them a bad score. We think they're doing a good job. This is kind of what we were talking about. Now, for the NASDAQ, I really don't know what to say there about them. I will say that I don't think they're doing as bad as they're showing, given the context of everything. Um, I think we're just seeing a rotational market right now, and everyone is getting love, and technology just isn't getting as much as people are used to. So yeah, but yeah, no real expectations. I'm gonna kind of leave it there. Keep this one short. Again, let's pay attention to the overnight session. We do have some somewhat important data tomorrow, the most important of the week, that is, and then we have more data and earnings the following week. So 2 more days. Let's finish strong. Y'all have a good night.